One and good. All right, welcome to the Uncommon Sense podcast. I am your host, Blake. Today, I have a very special guest, my podcast mentor, the godfather of social media when it comes to Montreal, Mr. Ian Wizzy Moonchaser. What is
I
up?
wish I was the godfather of social media, man. I have anxiety sometimes. Like I look at social media kind of like when you meet a girl for the first time and you get her number. I can't call you like I'm not even talking about the first 3 days. I can't just call you 3 days in a row. Like I feel awkward posting every day. Like and even like the anxiety of trying to figure out what to post. Like how do you stay interested? How do I stay relevant? But what's great is that I have so much things going on to my detriment. I'm trying to kill myself here with work. So I always do have content to post. But even at that, I feel a little bit weird sometimes like posting them. I'm like, yo, I don't like being in people's faces like that. But at the same time, you gotta understand you have a brand to push as well. So you gotta try to kind of find that balance. But yeah, I hate it. It's horrible.
The rock mentality, right? If you just do a lot of shit, you're always gonna have something to post.
Listen, shout out to The Rock. You know what? That's why there's many reasons why I like you, but I like because you bring light to the obscure. A lot of people don't give enough light to The Rock. What The Rock has done was amazing. To come from wrestling and to become part of like pop culture and all this, it's crazy. Him and Kevin Hart don't have like 8, 9 movies together already. They're like the modern day Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker. This is the modern day Rush Hour.
Pretty much. I mean, even Security, he came from fucking. I don't know if you watch the Rich Eisen show, but Warren Sapp was on the Rich Eisen show, and he was talking about how because him and The Rock went to the University of Miami together to play football.
Right.
And he was like, "So you were on the line with Dwayne The Rock Johnson?" He's like, "No." He's like, "I played. The Rock was on the bench." He's like, "Let's get that straight." He's like, "The Rock did not play next to me. He was on the bench."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, really?" He's like, "Because they said when you got taken, you came in." He's like, "No, there was a bunch of guys in there before The Rock. The Rock was not playing. Like he was not good enough to play. Like
he wasn't prime time yet.
He was not prime time. He was not doing anything. So he's like, listen, kudos to him. You know, he went wrestling, made fucking millions, went to movies, made fucking millions. You know what I mean? He's just a hard go-getter, but he's like, let's be honest, like when it came to football, the dude was not balling like people are saying that he was. Like, he was a bencher. He's like, you know what I mean? He went up north, he played in the CFL, whatever, same shit. He's like, it's great, whatever, but he's like, let's just get that straight. But yeah, I mean, like,
The Rock is a special dude.
The Rock's a savage, man. Like The Rock just works all day, every day, like no stop, no go, no, like, you know what I mean? He's got one mode. He just keeps moving. Like,
yeah, the only downfall when you have that kind of regimen, like I'm not trying to compare my work schedule to The Rock, but my schedule is pretty aggressive. The only detriment to that is that you have to take longer vacations. You have to take longer periods where you don't do anything. Like even from a creative standpoint, that's the point I feel I'm at right now. Like I feel like just physically and mentally exhausted. I think I've really pushed myself to the brink right now. And when you really know your body and you being a physical trainer and all that, you pretty much know like there's a point where a person understands their body. Like you've had this shell for how many decades, right? So I know when something's off, right? So yeah, that's the only detriment. But you get a lot of work done if your work ethic is strong like The Rock or like myself, you get a lot of things done.
Yeah, you can. I mean, but at the same time, like you said, you can get burnout. You can also your work ethic starts to become part of your addiction. In that case. Like you don't start paying attention to the things you're supposed to be paying attention to. You're not balancing. I mean, balance is the key to everything. If you just sink yourself into work all day, then everything else suffers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, balance, moderation. Like, yeah, I definitely feel that. And like I think for a long time, especially in my 20s, I use work as kind of like a crutch to not really get into like deep relationships, to not really like invest time into my friendship with my friends. And yeah, I suffered for it, man. I lost a lot of good people that I had in my life. Just trying. I posted something before New Year's. I go, I sacrifice friendships for professional pursuits. You know what I mean? That's real, man. Like, I think back to like Hall of Famers, like basketball Hall of Famers. When they go to the Hall of Fame, they do their speech. They all pretty much have the same kind of vibe to it, where it's kind of like, yo, I've missed birthday parties. I've missed dinners. I've missed moments with my kids, with my partner, with my family to do this. Like there's a certain level of sacrifice that goes into like a certain level of greatness that you want to achieve amongst yourself.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's like that's kind of like what Kobe was talking about, when 2020 started, when we were watching him transition from being a Hall of Fame basketball player to just like a well-rounded human. He talked about how he was becoming more available. He was paying attention to things, with his children. He realized what he was missing. Like he wanted to apply the work ethic that he had being a Hall of Fame basketball player to being just an amazing person. You know what I mean? Like he wanted to apply that to his life. He wanted to be that role model for young players to be able to get to. You know what I mean? Like he was trying to be. I don't know if people would say that he met the level that Jordan was at, who was his idol. You know what I mean? Because he tailored everything he did after Jordan. But there is one thing he definitely, in my mind, did better than Jordan, and that was post-career, he really delved himself into becoming a complete human being. You know what I mean? Like,
no, well, I was like to say, you saw with Kobe's post-career where it's kind of like how he fractioned his professional basketball career, where he was very planned out. Like you could saw, like as soon as his career done, he had X, Y, and Z prepared, ready to go. Like the dude won like an Oscar or something for like, what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? So you can tell like just like you said, he took the same skills and abilities he had playing basketball and he flipped it and he put it in his personal life now into his personal life and his other ambitions. Now I'm not quite yet at that transition where I want to enjoy all the different kind of things. Because you still like, when you're a really passionate person about something that you want to achieve within your own life, you still have this thing where it's like, I have to see it through because I'm always going to wonder what if I had tried harder? What if I had gone to this interview? What if I had tried this, that, or the other? So I'm not quite there, but I do respect the hustle, man. I do understand, like, it's a sacrifice, man. It's a sacrifice. Like, when you want to do something and it burns your soul and you think about it every day, and that's the only thing that really makes you happy. Like it really messes with you. And then, and then you know, when you have foresight, that anything that you endeavor, there's going to be obstacles. There's going to be doors closed on you. There's going to be people telling you that you can't do it. There's going to be people telling you that you're not great at what you do. So you have to deal with all of these pressures and all these impediments and still follow through on what you really want to accomplish.
For sure. Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, you got to have that kind of, there is a place for in your psyche for ignorance. The ignorance used the right way will, project you forward and push you past, the limits of other people. But too much ignorance will lead you, down the pit of like, not being able to see the forest through the trees kind of thing.
Exactly.
So that's a huge thing. But yeah, so today I just wanted to talk about 2020 as a whole. You talk for a living, like you said, and like I said, you're the guy who got me into podcasting this year.
Right.
We started like way back when we were doing
basic bullshit.
That first iteration of basic bullshit, and then and then you had me on a couple of pods there and everything, and then you told me like, you could do this on your own if you really wanted to, and I was like, nah.
Yeah, man, you're dope, man. You mad smart, but what it comes down to is like understanding like. People want to be entertained, but people want to be informed as well. Like, and that's kind of like the dance all broadcasters or hosts or podcasts, whatever people want to classify themselves. That's kind of duality that they're facing each other, right? Like, you still want to be entertained and talk bullshit and stuff like that, but you still want some kind of structure. You still want to have some kind of sense to it. And I would like for more podcasters and broadcasters to be more like that. And we're going to a new age now where everybody's podcasting and everybody feels they can do this, right? So everybody feels that their message is that much more important. So how do you rise your content above the fray? How do you stand out in a room full of everybody's talking? And I thought was dope about you is that just your background, you growing up, how your mind. Just even looking at the things you read every day, the things you look at, it just shows to your character. And I think that's a dope person and that's a dope message to get out there. That's why I always encourage you to do your own podcast, because I feel there's no sense your partner and your friends and family enjoying all the greatness of Blake. I think it'll be dope. Just get out and just see what happens.
Yeah, and I appreciate that because, for a long time, I just thought, like, I just think differently than other people. Nobody gives a shit. Everybody's used to being on that status quo. Because especially, even playing sports, on a higher level like college and stuff, you're not rewarded for having that different mentality. You know what I mean? It's very militaristic where it's like, and it's understandable that it is because you got to think about you're dealing with a lot of people, trying to get a lot of people on the same page, trying to achieve something. you don't really have time for outward thinking. Like you can at some points you can kind of think it through, and you can kind of allow people to have these like different thoughts. But for the majority of the part, you just got to have people fall in line.
Yeah,
and
well, that's what team sports is, right? It's just a level of conformity. Just really focuses, getting a group of people to be focused on one unique goal, one unique purpose. So all this individualistic thing, that's not really dope. But there are a lot of people that play team sports. Look at Kyrie Irving. And that's one of the problems that people have with Kyrie Irving is that he has one of those kind of
he's got a floating mind, sure.
The word, and that's cool, and that's right. And then I see some people say, you know, when LeBron James had the whole thing with when the reporter told him to just dribble and shoot, and I talked about social issues, and he clapped back, then it was cool. But when Kyrie Irving talks about certain things, now some of the same reporters say, well, he should shut up and just play ball. You can't have it both ways. And you know, I was talking about that. If we're going to open the conversation, we open the conversation, even though sometimes some of the conversation might be uncomfortable. I think if someone's conversation or their dialogue isn't detrimental, or it's not hate speech, let the man talk. Listen, people are going to say a lot of things we ain't going to agree with. Like Kyrie says the earth is flat. Kyrie has a lot of strong, you know, he's like, yo, me and Kevin are coach ourselves. That's pretty wild. But you can tell what's dope about Kyrie, like you can obviously tell that he's an individual. And I like people that are individual. That's what I like about you. I like people that uncommon, kind of uncommon, but not common in a bad, uncommon in a way where it's like, okay, well, there's only one Blake, and I like that. There's only one iteration of you. And I think the world should at least get a taste of that, or a slice of that madness.
Yeah. And I think the one thing that you told me that was very important was to stick to, or at least like what we've discussed, you know, over the years, is that it's very important to stick to things that you want to follow, like to have your own distinction. Because when you go out and try to just do things in terms of, you know, like trying to be an influencer or trying to do these kind of things, like you may have a 15 seconds of fame situation where you may do something that may get a lot of clout, but if you don't have a lot of shit behind it, then, or if you can't replicate it because it's not second nature to you, you're fucked. Yeah, because you're going to be chasing. It's like someone who comes out with a song, like a one-hit wonder song that's not theirs. Yeah. They can't replicate it. They were just in the right place at the right time, which is fine. But as far as a long-term goal, as long as keeping things like, you know, genuine, it's not going to work. Like you can only bullshit people for so long before people are like, he's not who he says he is. That's not what he's about. Like he's not going to do that kind of thing. So
yeah, for sure. You know, it's that whole comics of keeping up with the Joneses, right? Like, you know, and I get the appeal. Like you start doing the podcast and you see how everybody else how they roll it out, and like, okay, I'm going to roll it out that way. Now I always tell people, yes, like we're not going to try to reinvent the wheel, but try to take different elements from different places and just try to do a spin on it. And this is where the creative aspect of things going, where it's deeper than just go get on the mic and talking. Find a creative way to showcase what you want to showcase. Showcase your brand is like a lot of people like to use that verbiage. But take different elements, and that takes work. That takes attention. That takes research. A lot of people, they just want to plug their Yeti USB mic and just press record. But what are you telling? We live in a world that's just fucking clouded by so much stuff. So much information, so much ideas, so much muck to meddle to, and that's what 2020 was. 2020 was many things, but one of the main things that they brought to the forefront is that we have an overload of information, and we now face a really awkward problem, which is who to trust. I mean, who to trust? Yeah. What's a reliable source? Now, did you ever think that we'll come to a point in our society that we'll get to a point where it's like, fuck, how do I figure out what's a reliable source? And that's what, and I've been saying it for the last 2 years in the morning, Detour, my morning show. The future war is going to be a war of information. And I was saying this before I saw Snowden, because when I saw Enemy of the State, I always told myself, if they can have an idea in a movie, why can't the government have had that idea already? Like,
if it's in a movie, that means the government's already thought about it. Because if it's new, the government's not letting it come out. Like, no, you can't put that out. No, that's not happening.
Some conspiracy theory would say that movies is a way that the ruling, controlling percentage
introduce new theories into people's minds.
Yeah, and try to appease you and really desensitize you to certain things. So if you operate under that kind of ideology, you get where they're kind of going with movies. So I signed me to state where they're bugging Will Smith like that, and that came out 99, 2000. So even from then I was like, okay, well, Yeah, well, they're listening to everything. And then years later, we see like, oh shit, they're really listening to everything, and there's all these things disconnecting. Yeah, because everything's digital. I've always told myself anything that's online can be altered, can be manufactured, and can be put and taken away. Yeah. So we're living in a war of information, and it's really hard to figure out who to trust. So now with everybody, and how I bring that back to podcasts, with everybody doing a podcast now, I would I would hope that the more interesting people last. Because not everybody lasts past 10 podcasts. The most interesting people last, because a lot of people figure out, like, oh shit, I got to come up with content every week or bi-weekly, however you do it, right? So I would like that the more interesting people, but what are people interested in? We're surrounded by people. A lot of people are sheep. A lot of people that are just followers. Individual thinking minded, critical thinking kind of minded people. Seems like we're in a minority. People, I remember studying psychology. I always talked about group mentality. Most people feel most comfortable being a part of a group. Just knowing that security blanket of having a group around them. A lot of people are comfortable with that, and I'm just not like that. I like to go against the fray. I like my solitude, but a lot of people don't like that.
I don't even know so much of it's people being comfortable being. People. I mean, we're humans, so we're social animals. You know what I mean? Like that's in our genetics. Like we have to be social animals. But I don't even know if it's so much that people are happy being sheep. Is more that people really look. People are. We're naturally curious. We naturally want to figure things out. We naturally want to get answers. The thing is that we went so far in one way where when we were discovering and doing, and trying to get information, that you'd only be able to get your information from certain sources.
Yeah.
Right? I always bring back the example of that. When I was in school and you used to have to write papers like psychology papers, sociology papers, you used to have to cite things in a certain way. You used to have, and that was uniformity, right?
Yeah.
That was all like, this is how you do it. These are the sources you can get from. These are reputable people who actually do their homework. This is how it works, right? And if you use the source that wasn't reputable, you didn't get credit for it, right?
Yeah.
But now the problem is that because the veil has been lifted now, and now everybody has this access to this information, that it's no longer needs, like, the sources that would have reputable information, meaning stuff that we could actually kind of bank on, that they've done their homework, that they've looked at, that they've understood, then given it to us, they get beat out, right? Yeah. That's what the internet brought. Now it's like this random dude can post this because he was at the place wherever this happened. This other person can post this. They can say that. You lose the ability to kind of say, calm down, let's figure it out, let's see what happened.
Yeah,
let's talk about it. You know what I mean? It's like you're running a police investigation every time. Like, you get the information right away. Like, there's been a shooting over here. Okay, let's go do our homework. Let's go figure out what's going on. Let's go see. Then we'll surmise and come up with a hypothesis of how this works out, of all this kind of shit or whatever. Blah blah blah. Example. You remember the thing you showed me there about those two chicks in Montreal there? Those two chubby girls in Montreal who were saying a bunch of racist shit. And the first thing that I said after looking at it was like, I guarantee you that's a fucking butthurt girlfriend.
Yeah, and it was. And it was.
A week later, it was a butthurt girlfriend.
Yeah, a butthurt girlfriend. And still I've been on different media shows that, even that particular story, they try to spin the narrative on that as well. But it was a butthurt story. The guy didn't want to talk to her, and this is how they lash out. So... But even talking about you're talking about like with the sheep and the ideas, it's like everybody swears they're journalists now, and I'm kind of conflicted because I am for expression of free speech. I want everybody to see the social media, express your ideas. Is your platform, that you do. But when you're trying to galvanize a large group of people, I think there should be a certain requirements of like sourcing. You know what I mean, like. Because everybody can't be a journalist, and everybody goes on this editorial kind of rant, and I feel kind of messed up because I do it as well as on my show. But I research, I really cultivate my ideas, and I think a lot of people just go off their emotions. And I think news that's driven by emotion is very dangerous. When your little vlogs and your little videos and your posts is driven by your inherent emotion in that moment, I think that becomes a little bit dangerous because it's not coming from a well thought out place.
No, it's
and And that's what's scary. Everybody's a journalist, and then they fire back and say, well, freedom of speech. I say, well, yeah, I have freedom of speech, but if you talk to large groups of people and you're trying to galvanize them to do something, I think that your information should be a little bit more credible.
Crazy. Yeah, no, it's the biggest issue that we have now, especially with that social media becoming a large part of the internet and the two worlds kind of colliding, where you have this information, then you have these people who are trying to become reputable for information. I mean, that's where we're getting victim culture from. That's where we're getting a lot of these, like these virtue signaling, vindication for being the person who's spreading this information, right? Yeah. Like even to a sense, like the Instagram profile that I sent you the other day.
Yeah, calling out influencers. Yeah,
calling out influencers. I'm like, but who gives a fuck what these dumbasses are doing? Like, these aren't people who like. I know that people want to say like, well, they have followers and they're gonna. Yeah. It's like, listen, dude, there are a bunch of people who are subjecting their lives to being on the internet, that they're trying to personify a situation where they're going to places that they're not paying for, that they're doing things that are not really theirs. Like, it's fine, whatever. They want to be a bunch of dumb kids who go up north and who are defying fucking logic because of whatever. I mean, listen, we always knew this was going to be the biggest problem with the lockdown, is that you're not going to be able to keep teens and 20s inside for very long. It's just not going to happen. They're not going to do it. Like, they want to live their lives. Even I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about the stunting child growth through the pandemic, because these kids aren't like, in some places kids aren't going to school. They're only doing homeschool, which is highly detrimental to their social development.
Social development and interactions and whatnot. Yeah.
Because in your teens and 20s, that's literally what you're doing. You're developing your social cues. You're understanding how to deal with other people. You're taking in the world and then bringing it back out again. You know what I mean? Like, you're navigating yourself mentally. And to not have that, I mean, that's the biggest fear I have with my daughter right now, is that she is going to daycare. So she is going back and forth. She is seeing other kids doing stuff. But like, if this continues on, like, and we keep having these things where like she's not going to be able to go meet kids and go have fun outside and go do things and be free to kind of like navigate the world like we did growing up, there's going to be a lot of issues where like we're going to get the matrix where everybody's only going to see the world through a computer. Like, they're only going to be able to see others and see people through a world that is posted or that is shown over the internet, which means that we lose that connection to the real world, which is a big problem for me.
Okay, so let me address that point that you just mentioned there. That's one of the reasons why I feel like the world is really on a time clock. Obviously, yes, to save lives and to like get a remedy to this COVID-19 thing, but also too, I haven't seen enough articles. I've seen a few, but I haven't seen enough speaking about what you're talking about. That like as soon as it started with the lockdown, I'm like, yo, what about the high school kids? What about the kids at elementary? Like, learning from home over Zoom is like, wow, that's like, yo, that's a stretch. With 40 different screens, that's really hard. And then I felt it for the elementary school kids because the interaction is really not there. And I'm like, oh man, the long-lasting effects of this is going to cause a crazy ripple effect. And we really need to find a solution to this COVID-19 as soon as possible, because the ripple effect of this is going to be out of control. And back to the Instagram thing, with that Instagram page calling the influencers, the fact is most people in that kind of social media world, they want to sway the narrative. They want to sway people away from these influencers because they feel like, oh my gosh, they're undeserving. How dare you have 20, 50, 60, 80,000 followers, right? 100%. I want to sway people away from them and bring them over to my thing. But you still have a product too. I look at social media like a big commercial. Some people look at social media as their TV series. It's just a matter of perspective, right? Some people live on it. I use it as a tool to enhance what I have going on. So it all depends on your approach. But a lot of people do look at these influencers, which is a whole term and a whole vibe that really got more popular with social media, because they were influencers before in the fashion industry and stuff like that. It just wasn't online. But to think that there's people that are just famous for being online, it's just one of those novel iterations of the mutation of the internet, I guess, right? But people want to sway those. I think just like how we view rappers or musicians, right? Where they say, "Oh my gosh, you take their lyrics literally." It's the same thing like a cult following, man. It's just some people have their niche people, and the same thing with influencers. It just shows what it doesn't take much for people to value someone else, or for someone to uphold someone or hold them on a certain pedestal. Now that benchmark isn't so high anymore. Like, oh my gosh, she posts all the time. She's in pretty places. She's in bikinis all the time. I'm gonna follow her. I'm gonna. She said, oh, she's supporting this product. I'm gonna support that product too. The benchmark isn't so high anymore. Like, what people need from you for them to engage with you, for them to bind with your sound, is not high anymore.
It's really not. It's
and that's sad to say, man. It's sad to say, and somehow, some way, we're all somewhat a slave to this internet thing. Like, I do find myself sometimes waking up, and one of the first things I do is checking my phone, checking my mail, checking my messages. But that also goes to when you have a lot of things going on. You gotta stay on top of a lot of things as well. But yeah, but I do encourage people taking a little breaks from social media sometimes. Just take a breather. I think that's really healthy at times as well.
I think so too. It's, for me, the way that I always tell myself is that, listen, man, if I'm going to be like reputable, if I'm going to be recognized for something, let it be something that I'm already doing, or let it be something that I'm actually doing.
Yeah. If
it's something where I'm just like posting shit on the internet, doing something or whatever, I'm like, that's a whole life I've got to create aside. I mean, that for me, that's when you get like all these guys who get burnout, get addictions, get all these problems, is because they're not doing something that's in their natural wheelhouse. They're not doing something that's ingrained in their lifestyle. This is something that is taking from their life that they are substituting for some level of fame and notoriety.
Right.
Like they're putting themselves in, like, the one thing I want to try to, the one thing that I've been contemplating lately that I'm trying to figure out is, so there's been this whole thing, especially having done the transgender podcast.
Yeah.
That I did. I mean, obviously, like we did that one, like, what was it? I think in like June or July with all the girls there, where we were talking to them about, the one thing I want to understand, because it seems like it's becoming very commonplace for women to get like Botox, for women to get these, facial reconstructions, get body augmentations, all this kind of stuff, everything. I want to understand the concept of that. You want, like, you're a woman and you're proud and you're doing this, or like anybody, you're proud you're doing this, but then you want to go to the extremes to change something about yourself to put, you know what I mean, to look the same. Because for me, and this is just my opinion, this is nobody else's opinion, this is just how I see things, I don't like things that are unnatural. I never have. Like, never have. Like, if I look at you and something is off, right away my brain's like, that's not real. Like, that's not a thing. So when I see all these women who are getting the same face, like it's like
that Kim face,
it's like they're coming out of an assembly line, like they're roboticizing themselves, like that. You look like this, your face looks like this, your tits look like this, your body looks like this looks like this, and you're good. But I'm like, but you're taking, what I want to ask is, you're taking the uniqueness of you away.
Yeah.
Like the things that you were born with, that you have, that nobody else has, you're substituting that to be on the main line with everybody else.
Yeah, but they like that main line because that main line, they know that main line works. Like, how do you tell someone that has, for example, a big crooked nose that, hey, listen, I love your big crooked nose, and they're telling you, listen, I feel fucked up like this. Like, I don't feel comfortable within myself. I want to have a face similar to that. I want something that works. And like, I totally agree with you. Like, natural is definitely the way, but at the same time too, I kind of sympathize with people that want to improve certain things. Like, things are there for you to improve it. Now, would I've opted to go with the same assembly line face that everybody else has? No, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. But I can't fault someone if they want to improve something on themselves. I just wish they would hope to like be a little bit more individualistic about it, and not everyone have the same Kim Kardashian kind of face. But they go with that kind of look per se because they know that works. They've seen society that men gravitate to that look, that men like that look, that women with this look gets the most followers, they get the endorsements. People are gonna do things that they've seen work. Right. Few people are are risk takers. Like, oh, I'm gonna try something. I'm gonna go outside the box, right? They're doing this because they've seen that it's been tried and proven.
But at the same time, though, this is the funny thing to me is that because it's like then a woman will go and be like, yeah, well, he left me for her.
Yeah,
well, you guys look the exact same because you both got the same plastic surgery. Not to say that one person's not differentiated from the other, but if you're gonna make each other look exactly the same, you're gonna have the same ass, the same tits, and you're gonna follow along this assembly line. You're gonna lose that aspect of you that's a little bit different. Yeah. You're gonna lose, like, you know what I mean? You're gonna lose that thing about you that made you unique.
Okay, but then there's a next conversation to be had. Is what makes you unique what people see in the exterior, the physical, or what makes you unique is what you have inside? I think your personality. Yeah, obviously it's birth. Like we all look different, obviously, right? But which one would be the predominant one? Because for some people, the exterior is just the window dressing. It's just the window dressing. What you have inside is really what determines you. But I get what you're saying is like it's fucked up. They all look the same. It's like where's this model that they're all tracing from? They all look the same. But how do you tell someone not to do that? Like, and not infringe on their rights? And it's no. But I get what you're saying. It's awkward, right?
It's weird. It's just for me. It's weird because I'm looking at it and I'm like, yeah, you look good, like, if you got your makeup done the right way and if you got your, like, whatever. But then, like, you look and, like, we've seen it now. You look 10, 15 years down the line, you go look at yourself and it's like, you don't look human anymore.
Well, that's the thing.
You know what I mean? Like, you're the way that
you're in your 20s and 30s.
Like, for me being a guy who's 38 years old, although I've always been into older women, it's just always been a thing with me. I've always fantasized about women in their 30s, like their late 20s, like 30s and 40s. I don't know what it is, but that's just always been a thing.
Yeah.
But like the way someone ages gracefully to me is like that's the majesty of life. Like that's when you get to see those moments when it's like, oh, you did your shit right. Like, okay.
Well, that's a drawback, Blake.
You got that tiny little crow's feet there. That's fine. You got a little laugh dimple, but
they don't want that. They don't want that.
You look good though.
Nah, like, they don't want.
You've been through it a little bit. I understand. Like when I look at like a young girl, like a young 20, I'm like, dude, she ain't seen shit yet. Like she like, you know what I mean? She's gonna be a fair weather fan, man. Like, she's gonna be gone the next second. Like that's, you know what I mean? And it's all good. It's fine because that's the time when you experience life. But for me, I just kind of wish that I'm hoping at some point, in my personal opinion, that things. I feel like what's going to happen is natural people are going to be this minority. They're going to be the unicorn in the room, where you're going to look at them and be like, "Fuck, look at her! Like she hasn't gotten shit done to her, and or like he hasn't gotten shit done to him, and fuck, does he ever look good?" You know what I mean? Like it's just. It's weird to me to look like to I guess because I've just kind of been accepting of who I am and what I look like. Like I've kind of said, look, this is what you got, dude. Like take it.
Not everybody has that certain level of constitution. And shout out to the whole plastic surgery, and she's kind of like doing heroin, right? It's like once you get hooked onto this, like you can't stop, right? There's a certain level of upkeep. So the return business for plastic surgery is wild.
Oh yeah, once you get it once, you got to keep getting it.
And what you're saying too, over time, a lot of these girls are what? Their early 20s, maybe early 30s, getting all this work done. What's going to happen to them over the space of time? Like when they're in their 50s and 60s, it's going to be wild to their bodies. They won't even recognize themselves. So they've sacrificed their old age for right now, and that's what a lot of people are doing right now. It's all about the moment. They don't care about being old, Blake. They care about the moment. It's all about the moment, baby.
I don't know, man. It's just fucking. I guess I don't know. It's just
they're doing it. They're affording it. Guys are paying for it. So everyone's like, "Yeah, this is a go. This is a thing."
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it kind of goes to me again. Like when I was growing up, like I didn't grow around too many black women, but like when I was growing up, and I was a teenager, I started going to school, and then even when I got into CJEP and stuff, and I started seeing what black girls were going through as far as getting their hair done and doing all these wig stuff and everything like that, and I was just like. But why are you doing all that?
It's a process,
like you're fine the way you are. You're pretty people. Like you're unique, but you're unique in your look. Like other people can't look like you.
Yeah, it's
You know
the
what I mean?
upkeep, man. It's the upkeep to keep, when you're a black woman and to keep your hair like that every day, the upkeeps allow you to wake up a little earlier. So having the braids and having the installs and having the wigs does save time to that morning preparation. But yeah, with black women, listen, man. Listen, man. I love the braids. I love the natural. I've been pretty much open with anything. I want just everyone just to do what their heart desires. I just want everyone to be happy doing what they're doing. It's just unfortunate that some people feel like they have to alter themselves a little bit to be accepted by society. So that's more reflection on how it's an old conversation. Basically, how the standards and the ideas that we uphold in this society. Pretty people are always going to win. This is not going to change. Just like how bankers will always screw over the average guy. Pretty people always win.
Shout out to JT though. You're looking at a lot of ugly dudes now who are running the world.
Yeah, shout out to Jay. Shout out to Jay.
A lot of ugly people are running the world right now. Like Bill Gates, the richest man on the planet, and
shout out to the nerds. Well, they understood.
I don't know. Bezos is taking TRT right now, so he's jacked out of his mind. You know what I mean? And he's like, but he dumped the young girl and went back with a girl his own age who seems to be a fucking monster. So like,
Amazon Basics.
You know what I mean?
He's on the Amazon Basics training. That's what's up.
It's crazy. Like
but less good-looking people have figured out they figured out ways to be invaluable to society, like a Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos. So you got to make yourself a commodity, man. You got to make yourself hot.
That's true. You got to do something to do it. Yeah, man, this is crazy.
Now it's been one of those wild ones. You just got to take a deep breath. It's just been a tough go emotionally, man, and just feeling like everybody's going through it. It's like, yo, what a downer to be home all the time and it's dark. It's fucked up. Winter's tough, man. At least summer we have some sunshine that you could go out and you could drive out.
Yeah, you can do things. You can get away. Yeah, you can do some stuff. But yeah, winter is just one of those things where winter is that time for reflection, right? Like it's that. That's why we have less crazies in the winter months, because it's too cold to go outside and do stupid shit.
Yeah, so now we need to get to a place where it's like, okay, can you guys come up with a vaccination that actually works? You know what I mean, can we get some?
I had a guy on my podcast the other day. He's a lab guy who's testing all the COVID stuff, and like it works. Like the one they have, the RNA vaccine, it will work. It's gonna work. It's just a question of that. Like everyone's talking about now, how we have like, oh well, some people are having adverse reactions. It's like people always have adverse reactions.
Yeah.
There will always be a group of people who will have an adverse reaction to something. That's the I don't think people really understand how varied the human genome is. Like how from person to person, how completely different we are. Like we're all human, we're all people. But when we're talking about, like, I mean, that's the reason there's doctors, man. That's the reason why they can't just give us shit and be like, here, take it, you're fine. Like we are so different as people. The way that our body works, the way everything goes, the adaptations we've made over time, the difference in mutations on our genomes, like it's so varied that like they can't come out with something, especially this fast. Like, would you rather they take 2 years and come out with something that's more validated, or would you rather get something that's like 95% effective and that is hopefully going to get everyone?
No, let's get it right.
You know what I mean?
Let's get it right. I just hope Montreal's are just too rebellious to stay home. That's the problem. You know what I mean?
Dude, I saw a group of fucking teenagers roaming yesterday outside, and I was like, nothing. They're doing nothing. They were just being stupid teenagers, which is fine. You're being stupid teenagers, but it's goddamn fucking quarantine, man. What are you doing outside chilling like that? Like, it's like, what are you doing, dude? Like, you're gonna get like it's. And again, this goes back to my thing with kids. Like, I was gonna be like, dudes, what the fuck are you doing out here? But then I was like, they're supposed to be doing this shit.
Yeah,
this is the life. This is what teenage kids do, man. Like,
there's only so much online gaming they can do, right?
I used to hang out in parks and shit, like, and chill out and go hang out with friends and go walk the streets and stuff and just do stupid shit where you could get away from people for fucking 25 minutes, 30 minutes. Like, I can only imagine what it's like to be a teenager right now and be around your parents all the time.
Oh man, I wasn't even looking at it from that standpoint because I grew up alone with my mom. But the thing about like people that have siblings and like they live in like a household with a mom and dad, like, oh man, that must be fucking wild annoying.
Like, you must be going out of your fucking mind as a teenager with hormones and shit and everything. Like, the fuck you gonna do? Jerk off all day? Like, Jesus Christ! Like, you can't even, like, I don't understand, man. It's such a bizarre place to be in. and that we're all not used to it, and it's just like it's just affecting everything. I mean, even like, look, we look at the things like what happened, you know, within the Black community with George Floyd, you know, Breonna Taylor, and all those things coming to light.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I don't know if if it wasn't for quarantine, I don't know if that would have got as much.
If it would have resonated the same way, right?
Exactly. But because we were all kind of forced to sit down and look at it and take it in, I think what it did was it really forced us to kind of sit there and be like, fuck, this is an actual issue that we really need to pay attention to.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's like you and I have discussed this a few times on podcasts. No one really wants to have an open discourse about it on both sides, white and black. And you know what I mean? Nobody really wants to sit down and say, listen, man, nobody wants to take honest acknowledgments about certain things. We've been having the same song and dance about racism and systemic racism in this country for a long time. And like we just keep just beating around the bush without really coming to a real solution or without putting things in place to really solve this issue, because it's not going to be something that's going to be solved overnight. It's going to take generations to really solve this. There's a lot of layers of hurt and discrimination there. So, but yeah, definitely right. If it wasn't for the slowdown of the world, I don't think it would have resonated. George Floyd, the Ahmaud Arbery, the Breonna, I don't think it would have resonated the same way. But also, what also amazes me too as well is the fact that everybody on the planet is going through this, and it showed the connectivity of us all, right? Because a lot of people, you know, even though social media and the internet did bring us closer together, seeing something like this happen and everybody's a friend, it showed like, oh my God, like we're really not that disconnected. We're really like, we're all on this planet together. We're all in this together. So, you know what I mean? That's, you know, that was one of my biggest takeaways from 2020 is that like, we're all more connected than we like to think. Like we're all on this planet. At the end of the day, we're all human beings. No matter if we're white, black, purple, or green, we all have flesh, we all have bodies, we're all human beings. And we're on this planet that we have to really take care and be cognizant of how each other's treating this planet, because we're all here together.
Yeah.
We're all here together. So you're talking about relations between countries, you're talking about you know, our advancement in the medical industry, you talk about our pharmaceuticals. Now, you know, now we're finding out now Jean de Montreal had an article a couple of days ago saying that how the National Health Organization, the OSW, OSM, whatever things called, how they might be in bed with pharmaceutical companies. Well, I'm like, well, that's not a far leap for me to take, right?
No,
everybody's kind of in league with each other. So it's like, at what point does human interest rise above profit? At what point does the human being become more important than capitalism? And like, we're in a world pandemic, and you take something so small like something in Quebec, where we're in a world pandemic, we're having crazy rates in Quebec, but still they're finding millions of dollars to give to the language police to protect the French language. Just for an example, right? Where does humanity rise above capitalism? Where does humanity rise above self-interest? Like what's important to us at the end of the day? Is it not living, sustaining life for the future, life for our kids? Like, what is really important here? Because the message I'm getting from people that we've put in control in terms of our world leaders, people that are heads of CEOs of companies, some of that, is that, you know, capitalism is king. I get it, you know, money rules the world and all that, but at some point, and you know, I would have thought this pandemic would have been that point where it's kind of like, okay, humans come first. And
I mean, you know what? And you see those countries where that is happening. Like, you know, you see these. I think Israel right now has already vaccinated a majority of their population already. Like they've already got their people in. You know what I mean? Vaccinated, ready to go. Like they're good. They're like, yeah, we're fine. Like we're gonna make it. Canada is kind of on the mend because we're waiting for vaccine to come in. We're doing our best job, but we're still having issues. But yeah, I think one of the things like what you touched on is that, and I mean, like I've chirped this a number of times, and I know you have as well. But and even I talked to PK X10 Pack, and he was talking about politics as well. You know, being black prime minister is something I never even thought about. Really, never thought about. Don't know why. But we're starting to see what politicians do. I think that's one thing that 2020 has kind of brought to light, and I'll give the majority of that of the eye openings of that to Trump, because I think you know, a lot of people want to hate what Trump is and stuff, and that's fine. You can do all that kind of shit, but the one thing that I do look at for him is what he did make you do. What he did make you do is pay attention to politics.
Yeah.
He brought that to light. He showed you what the game is, how they're doing things, and just how lackluster you actually have to be to like to do these kind of jobs and to do them badly. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because a lot of people came in and said like, hey, you know, you should just do this and do that and be directive and do this and and get this shit done. Okay, well, he did that. And he didn't take anybody else into consideration. And he did what he felt was best or whatever he thought he was going to do. And that's the result. And then people ended up hating him and people ended up doing whatever and people ended up signing. But the thing is, what he did show you was the importance of politics. A lot of us don't pay attention to politics.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us don't care about, you know, our municipal government.
Our elected officials,
we don't care. We don't think about it. We don't pay attention. But what we don't realize is that, we all get infatuated, or we all look at, you know, when it's time to vote in a new prime minister, when it's time to, you know, elect a party who's going to represent your province. That's great. Or, you know, your state, whatever. But it's the local government that makes the decisions that really affect your everyday life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're the ones who are going to be pulling the most money out of your pocket when it comes to year's end. And for you not to pay attention as someone who pays taxes, as someone who does things, to what's going on that level is a little bit asinine. And then to come only and start to care once we get to that.
And things are going bad. And things are going bad, right?
Like, oh, well, this needs to change. It's like, well, where were you? Like, you can vote. You can vote for this thing. You can tell these people you don't want this shit. You can force them not to make these decisions. Like, they are your elected officials. Elected being the main word. Like, you need to pay attention to this shit and understand how this shit works. And it's like we said, politics is something that should be taught in school, not just political science, but the actual process of politics and what they do. Like, the whole guise needs to be removed so that we can understand the exact process. If there's any fucking pitfalls or stupidities, remove them and make it as this like clairvoyant and like clear system, like, you know, A's and B's as it possibly can be. Because what ends up happening is exactly what's happening now. We're all stuck at home. We have people making decisions who have no fucking clue what they're doing.
No clue.
They're not following science. They're not following shit. They're making their joint opinion. We've got Walmart open, but we can't keep the small business open. Like, it doesn't, like, there's a lot of things that don't make any fucking sense. I can't train somebody in a gym, but a spa owner can run their spa all day long. Like,
the disparity doesn't make any sense. You know what? And I've been one of those ignorant people that didn't pay attention to politics enough in my own borough, in my own municipality, in my own city. And I can promise you I will now. Our next elections are going to be really serious because this whole I'm going to govern in a way where I just want to appease my base. Like, I get all that, but people's lives are at stake now. Like, we need, like, we have Valerie Plante as a mayor, and boy, did she step in the thing. She had the George Floyd thing, and then you know, the Black Lives Matter thing, and then now we have COVID. We always told people, you can elect who you want to elect, but when things hit the fan, you want experienced hands at the helm. Mm-hmm. You want someone that knows how to what they're doing. And I guess no one can. And some people say, well, you know, you can't prepare for something like a pandemic. I'm like, I get that, but you can tell when someone has the people's interests at heart first, and their personal politics second. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they don't teach it in school shows that you guys are trying to keep this secret. You guys are trying to keep this like a generational wealth thing, where it's like only those that have the luxury to learn about politics or to be around that milieu can pass it along, you know, right? Kind of keeping it away from us minorities or us that don't go to country clubs and don't come from this far line of wealth and money, right? And that's a perfect example of institutionalized systemic racism. It's like, why don't you guys teach politics and investing in school? Why aren't you teaching people the tools so everyone could be profitable or do the best they can do with their life? Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, our next election is going to be real serious. 2020 was a shit storm. 2021 just started, and we're in a lockdown, so no one's really saying anything. Like, I haven't even posted since last week because I'm just like, It's a weird place to be in, man. It's just a weird place to be in.
Yeah, everything's in a lull. There's nothing, there's no movement anywhere. It's like there's just everybody's stuck where they are, and they're not doing anything, and they're not moving in any direction.
Right.
And it's forced. Like we physically can't take a step forward because we're all too worried about getting sick. And it's the one thing. I think the one thing that's important also to talk about is the state of health in the world, as far as in the first world countries. Like there are some countries that have done it right, but Canada is especially one of those ones who is kind of fucked up in a lot of ways, where we allowed, again, in politics, for a politician who has no ability to understand medicine.
We talking about Legault, or are you talking about Trump?
Well, Legault, but not even Legault, but just trying to like.
But all of them bring to a certain level of ignorance, and
exactly, and like the Liberals have been terrible with this because they've destroyed the healthcare system, especially in Quebec, for a long time. Like, and we now see it. Like, if you remember when you were a kid, everybody had a family doctor.
Yeah.
Everybody had a doctor that they could go to. Like, you waited in the waiting, but you had your doctor. You had it. But that's not like that anymore.
No.
Like, if you private, great, you got your doctor. And a lot of doctors went to the private because the public system said we only allow this many doctors. You got to have this load. You got to do this, like this kind of shit. That is absolutely asinine. Like, you cannot control how, like, people will work when they work. People can do is like, you can't control that. You're a government system. Like, if you're going to have government healthcare, allow government healthcare to do its fucking thing. Take care of the people.
Right.
Don't put these stipulations on shit. And hire fucking doctors until, like, there's too many doctors where we have an issue where we have too many doctors and not enough patients. Yeah. Like, at that point, then you can revamp the system. But now you've got no doctors,
and too many patients.
Doctors leave, and now you've got tons of patients. And now you got people who have COVID and whatever else situations. And now even that system is not working anymore. Like, we watched the states pretty much destroy their Medicare system firsthand. And then we, like, they under wraps kind of did it over here. Like, the one thing I'm going to look for in the next political election is who is going to reinstitute that system to back to the way it used to be.
No, that's a good point you put there too.
Like, I'll pay more taxes if I can get more doctors, because going forward, that is going to be the biggest problem we have going forward, is the medical system and making sure that there are enough doctors to take care of all the people who are going to be sick.
So now you see the Medicare system has taken a hit now. And for years now, we've heard the nurses say, hey, listen, we're not getting paid properly. We're doing all these overtime hours. And now, Lord and behold, COVID happens. Who are the most essential people amongst the essential people? Nurses. Yeah. You know what I mean? For years, you guys shitting on them. You had to give them their just due. And now they're invaluable. You need them.
Yeah.
Listen, man, we got to do a better job. And now people are saying, oh, my gosh, Canada's so great because we have universal health care. I'm like, yeah, it's great, but they got rid of family doctors, and that fucked up the whole game.
It screwed up everything, because now it's like now you have situations where people can't go. Right now, people don't want to go to the emergency room. Like, my mother had emergency gallbladder surgery, and I was having a literal panic attack because I had to bring her stuff in the emergency room because I was afraid I was going to get fucking COVID when I stepped in there.
No, I feel the same way, B.
And then I got to come back home to my kid, and my girlfriend, and I'm afraid I'm going to give them COVID if I got COVID. And then I got a father who's diabetic, and I may give him COVID. Like, it's a whole system and situation where, like, you've completely fucked over the entire system to try to save a couple of bucks, which you didn't even save. Like, if you want my tax dollars, you better put a shitload of money. Stop worrying about fucking language and start worrying about life.
Stop worrying about lights on a bridge, and then you guys gonna do a console to study the effects of the lights on the bridge. And you know what I mean? Like, come on, man.
Like, I'll take a ferry across the fucking water. If I fucking have to
go to the South.
If you put more fucking doctors and nurses in, like, into the situation and allow fucking doctors and, like, help them support their own practices, I will do that 100% of the time. Like,
we gotta take care of our doctors and our nurses, man. And shout out to all the teachers, man. They're doing the work.
Yeah.
You never, and that's. I'll like to end with this. That was one of the greatest things you saw in 2020. How we really saw how people's profession should be valued, like teachers, like how like everybody, like even like your gas station attendant, like these guys have been out there the whole time. Your corner store guy, your guy that works at IGA. It really made. I hope I'm not the only one.
Like delivery guys now.
The delivery guys, like I really look at everybody, no matter on the totem pole of society, whether it's a high esteem job, low esteem job, everybody's job played such a pivotal role in 2020. And you really like, what I'm saying? I never even looked down on anybody else. Like say, where I work in a hospital, I work in the office, and then there's housekeeping. I've never looked down on housekeeping.
Never.
What these guys are doing, they're putting their, one of my good friends, he's a housekeeper. I said, I have so much respect for you, man. And I did before, but even more so now because you put your life on the line every day for the last 12 months, 13 months.
Yeah.
People understand that some of these people are in the line of fire every day, and they still have to go home to their kids, go home to their spouses, go home to their family members. And man, it really warms my soul, man. It's tough, man. You really got respect. It made me respect everybody. And no matter what you do, from a gas station guy to the guy, stock boy at Metro, you got my infinite respect because I know this ain't easy for anybody.
I mean, like even before New Year's, like I got a deponer that's literally 2 doors down from me, and I literally told the guy, I'm like, listen, I'm like, not enough people say this, but I want to thank you because everybody is so scared to go anywhere, and like literally, like I don't know how many times I've been in here and bought like milk that I've been short of because I couldn't get it on my grocery order or all this kind of stuff. But like if you weren't here, like it would make life that much harder. So like, I know like a lot of people don't pay attention to, like these little corner stores that are run by, these little minority families or whoever, but thank you for being here because you are helping the neighborhood, like really, survive. Like if someone doesn't have food that they didn't get because they couldn't make an order or because they're too scared to go to a fucking grocery store, like, they come in and they grab like, some mac and cheese or some oatmeal or some ramen noodles to feed themselves because, it's right here and they feel less afraid. Like,
shout out to those guys, man. Like everybody doing a great job, man. And only thing we could do moving in, as we are in 2021, just to be positive, man. Just really cherish your loved ones. And I think that's one of the greatest takeaways I've done is really cherish those people around me in my life that I deem special. And I want to encourage everybody to do the same.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much for coming out. I appreciate y'all listening. And thank you, Wizzy. Obviously,
yes, sir. It's a pleasure.
We'll do this many times again, I'm sure.
So coming, baby.
Happy 2021 to everybody. We love you. And this has been the Uncommon Sense Podcast. And we are out. See you later.